Recording in progress.
Please rise as you are able. I now call this meeting of City Council to order.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
The City of Barrie acknowledges the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, which include the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge the Wendat Nation Huron, who occupied these lands prior to the middle of the 17th century. We're dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and recognizing the enduring presence of Indigenous peoples on this land. We're committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. You may be seated. So thank you, members of council, members of the media, members of the public. This is our second meeting. We have a little bit of a different feel this evening, kind of circa 2005, Don? We get them both in one night and an early meeting. And so as it's our last meeting before the holidays, we will be obviously doing both the General Committee, which we just did, and City Council this evening. Originally, I was going to ask for change in the timing of the presentation. As we've already completed one of the two presentations and we're ahead of time, we're just going to jump right into our agenda. So we're going to move into the confirmation of minutes. The first item on the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes. The minutes of the City Council meeting held December 6th have been circulated. Are there corrections? Seeing none, they are adopted. Awards and recognition we will leave until the appropriate time when the team is able to come up, and we'll move right into number 8, which is deputations. I don't believe there's any deputations from the previous General Committee meeting. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
You are correct, Mayor Nuttall.
Thank you. Tax applications, Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl. Tax application to Council for cancellation, reduction, and addition of tax dated December 13th, 2023.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungl, that tax applications to Council for cancellation, reduction, or addition of taxes dated December 13th, 2023. That the list of applications to Council for cancellation, reduction, or addition of taxes dated December 13th, 2023, submitted by the Treasurer in the amount of $16,727 be approved. Are there any questions or comments with regards to this? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. We are through the tax applications and communications. We're now going to move into committee reports. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungl, that item 8.1 of the first General Committee report dated December 13th, 2023, as circulated, be received.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungle, that ITM 8.1 of the First General Committee Report dated December 13th, 2023, as circulated, be received. ITM 8.1, confidential potential acquisition of property matter downtown Barrie. Madam Clerk, I'm just going to change that if that's okay with you. So it's the confidential potential acquisition of property matter downtown Barrie. Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor, and it carries. Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungle, that Section A of the Second General Committee Report dated December 13th, 2023, as circulated, be received.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungle, that Section A of the Second General Committee Report dated December 13th, 2023, as circulated, be received. This is ICI 231129, Report of the Infrastructure and Community Investment Committee dated November 29th, 2023, and FRG 231206, Report of the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee dated December 6th, 2023. Are there any comments or questions with regards to these matters? Seeing none, all those in favor, and it carries. Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungle, that Section B of the Second General Committee Report dated December 13th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungle, that Section B of the Second General Committee Report dated December 13th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted. CAM 003-23, the Local Service Guidelines Update, Appendix H, in Development Charges Bylaw. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungle, that Section C of the General Committee Report dated December 13th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungle, that Section C of the General Committee Report dated December 13th, 2023, as circulated, be adopted. DEV 062-23, Art and Water Cultural Group Partnership, Ward 2. Are there any questions or comments with regards to this item on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, and it carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson. Is that it? That's it. Beautiful. Well, then I'm going to un-Deputy Mayor Thompson, and I'm going to go past deferred business, as there is none. With regards to direct motions, the cultural heritage evaluation has been withdrawn, so although it's on the agenda, it won't be dealt with this evening. So we're going to move into the second direct motion, which is Councillor Kungle and seconded by Councillor Rittman.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. With this direct motion, I'd like to put it on the floor as written, and I have an amendment.
So I think you'll
We
have
have to vote first, right?
Right. Madam Clerk, do I need the sheet, though?
Mayor Nuttall, she needs to introduce it and then pass it off to you.
It's moved by Councillor Kungle and seconded by Councillor Rittman for the cleanup Lake Simcoe. Whereas in 2009, the Government of Ontario released its Lake Simcoe Protection Plan, which called for Lake Simcoe's phosphorus pollution to be reduced by 50% to 44 tons per year to protect our cold water fishery and to prevent excessive weed growth and algae blooms. And whereas the Government of Ontario has still not funded or implemented a plan to reduce Lake Simcoe's phosphorus pollution to 44 tons per year, and whereas Lake Simcoe's phosphorus pollution has risen by 26% between 2015 and 2020 relative to its 2009 level, therefore be it resolved as follows: that one, that the Corporation of the City of Barrie requests the Government of Ontario to fund and implement a plan to reduce Lake Simcoe's phosphorus pollution to 44 tons per year with a target date of 2030, and two, that a copy of this resolution be sent to local MPs, MPPs, Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, and all Lake Simcoe watershed MPPs and municipalities. Councillor Kungle.
A point of order, Mayor Lehman. Whoa.
I'm going to point of order your point of order now.
Okay. Yes, I deserve that. I'm just reading my laminated trustee sheet here because I didn't get the point of order earlier, right? So I'm triple checking. Motions without notice, it's only at council and requires a 2/3 majority of council to permit having it placed on the floor.
It isn't a motion without notice because it's inside of the printed agenda.
Okay. So if it's direct motion versus a motion without notice?
Correct.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Councillor Kungle.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I have an amendment to this motion, and to read as follow. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Corser, that the direct motion concerning cleanup Lake Simcoe be amended as follows. We are deleting the second paragraph. So this makes reference to the provincial government related to funding. That's completely being removed. The second edit is the second last sentence, which is bulleted number 1. We are removing the words fund and. The purpose of those amendments are twofold. One is that I think this interest in us having a voice as a municipality, as a key stakeholder around the well-being of Lake Simcoe was one that was intended to come forward a while ago, but we deferred it a little bit, knowing that we were going into budget. So the language, my apologies, would have been caught a little bit sooner. The changes to the removal of the language are only specific to the provincial government related to funding. We have seen funding happen in some lovely announcements back in November through Minister Kanjan, which did identify some intentions around a couple of different initiatives that I believe are aimed in supporting the reduction of phosphorus related to the health and well-being of Lake Simcoe. However, this municipality, I think it was quoted back in 2020 by Lake Simcoe Watch and others as having a voice to call on the efforts to reduce phosphorus to the target of 44 tons by 2030. It is important, I believe, for us to still have a voice in this and identify that while we're seeing some investments, that is an important target that hopefully means a comprehensive plan will continue to come forward and that we should be keeping our eye on this over the following years. But that while there's different initiatives, I would like to see us support a motion that very clearly identifies the original goal, which is getting to those 44 tons of reduced phosphorus pollution with a target date of 2030.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any comments or questions by Councillor Harvey?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. To the mover of this, what's the emergency here? Why is this a direct motion, and why couldn't it have waited to go through the normal procedure of general committee and then council?
Yeah, thank you. It was deferred a little bit through, just the budget process, but didn't see it as a controversial motion. This is something that we've had a voice on in the past, is something that is a target that I believe we would be interested in seeing we stand by, that has a lot of history around publications and discourse, so didn't feel it really needed to be something that was contentious. So it did come through in my engagement with the clerk's office around coming as a direct motion. There's been a lot of media on this, so didn't see it needing a lot of background context. We've seen other municipalities follow suit over the years, and then continuing with some reports over this fall around wanting to make sure that as we see our provincial government doing some pretty sound investments, that target is still the target in sight, which is the 44 tons by 2030.
Yeah, thank you. And just follow up to that, leading up to this motion coming forward, have you had a meeting with the minister in regards to this before it coming to council?
No meeting with the minister. Like from what I understand by Andrea, Ms. Kanjan's announcements and the 1.3 million and the November scope and what we're seeing around Holland Marsh, that those are all great steps forward. But for me, it's the target that has been the target back from 2009 that we want to see continue. So it's really us just basically saying, as we're seeing investments, this is the target that still stays true for us.
Just a follow-up to that, if I could. Sorry, Mayor Nuttall.
As we're in a public setting, I would ask that the minister be referred to as minister because it is her official title.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's just, I find this concerning when we've got something that of a fairly significant magnitude on the table here, and now I'm hearing that there hasn't been any meetings with Minister Kanjan ahead of this, and I personally think it would be a lot more productive to have at least a few meetings ahead of this, and if you're not satisfied with the responses that you're getting from the minister, then come and bring this forward, opposed to just putting something on the table because you don't like what you're reading in the media. I find that concerning. When you look at, so it was a previous government that set the goals, not to say there were good goals, bad goals, or whatever, but 2009, and if you go onto the Simcoe Conservation Authority's website, it shows the phosphorus levels for the last 2 decades. And they actually kept increasing after 2009 when this was implemented. And yeah, I know you've took that one section out where it talks about 2015, but selectively, as soon as you hit 2015, you've got a slight dip, but then it starts to go up again. And then the lowest year in 2 decades was 2020, when it was 58 tons. But without these robust conversations ahead of this, I have a difficulty in supporting yet another letter to a government body. Look at the success we had in all the letters last term we sent. I don't even know if we had any responses from any of them. So I'm just not sure what the purpose of this is, especially when having those face-to-face conversations. I know Minister Khanjin's always available because I have been able to get those meetings myself when things have come up, especially being a board member on the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority. So I'm not quite sure why those steps didn't get taken before we're having this discussion. And the discussion from me would have been very different at that point. But this seems to be very, very premature when you look at, there's so many pieces when it comes to these phosphorus levels. And throwing money at it, quite evidently, when you look at the last 2 decades, or especially even after 2009, throwing money at it isn't necessarily the only solution to this. There's got to be change in the way things are being done to be able to bring these phosphorus levels down. And it's not just from the government. It's from the people that live on the lands. And that's just one piece of it. But if you look at where the loads are coming, so for people are always hone in on sewage treatment plants. Well, they say only 7% of the phosphorus loads from sewage treatment plants are the impact, and that the other 62% are naturally occurring from the rocks, the plantation, the erosion. And that's where, it's difficult to say just throwing more money at this is going to be the solution. And that's where I really think you need to sit down and have these discussions with the minister, with her staff, to really fully understand what needs to be done moving forward. And you only have to go on their website, on the government's website, to see that whether you like what their strategy is another story, but there is a strategy that's been there since 2010. Obviously, originally from the previous government. But I have a hard time supporting this when there's been no conversation with the minister ahead of tonight.
Councillor Hamilton, I think I saw your hand.
I did have my hand up before Councillor Harvey spoke, and I don't know if I have too much more to add. I would just say I was also just a bit concerned with the process. I understand, Councillor Kungol, that you didn't perceive this as being a contentious item, but I think for me there's a lot of value in going through the process and having this come to different committee to enable dialogue, right? I think there's a lot more information that I would have liked, and I was on the board of the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation. I'm intimately familiar with this. I'm passionate about the lake. I agree that there's work that needs to be done here. I would challenge sending a letter as being the most effective route to take. I think, working in government, and I know you're familiar with this as well, blasting government usually doesn't result in the outcome you're trying to achieve. I would much prefer having conversation and dialogue and actually really working together in a more collaborative manner to really understand what's been done, what hasn't been done, and what actions we need to take. I don't think we'll get that just through a letter. So I would make some changes, and I think there could be some changes presented here tonight. But yes, happy to see this brought forward and highlighted as an issue, because I do agree it absolutely is. I'm just not sure if I'm on board with the number 1 and number 2 as presented.
Councillor Reba.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This thing has been, started many years ago, and it really needs to be implemented. And I sit on the Conservation Authority, as Simcoe, Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, as did Councillor Hamilton. And I know that there's been a great number of discussions with Minister Khanjin and the ministers before her about this very subject. It's also true that many of the municipalities around the lake are taking the same action as is recommended here. I think what, and I must say, to their credit, I think the province is listening. I think Minister Khanjin made an announcement a couple of months ago about taking some steps in terms of funding, and as well, the province is looking at spending something like $25 million, and don't hold me to the number, to build a phosphorus removal plant in the Holland Marsh area. So I think that it's important for us to join hands with the other municipalities around the lake, because this lake is important to us, and phosphorus is a really important ingredient in this lake that we need to resolve. And so anything that we can do to band together with our neighbors is important in terms of getting something accomplished here. And the way the motion now is really that we're asking the province to implement a plan to reduce the phosphorus levels. And, you know, I mean, that's really an important statement, I think, for us as a major municipality on the lake to make. And yeah, you know, we may say, yes, it's motherhood, and yes, and maybe it's a waste of stamp on a letter, but I think that it's important to show solidarity around the lake and try to move this program forward, because it's really important for the environment of the lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Morales, and then I'll have Councillor Harris after that.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I agree that it's important, but to put bluntly, we need to pick up the phone, personally, I think, on this. I totally agree it's an important issue, and thank you to Councillor Kungl and Harvey, who brought up the kind of the benchmarks of the numbers where our phosphorus levels have been. This has been prioritized in Barrie for over 2 decades by many people, and I'm going to miss somebody, but somebody that stands out to me is former MP Patrick Brown at the federal level. And the last council, a motion that was initially not brought to me on council, it was brought to a former councillor, but then brought to me by current councillor Jonathan Scott out of Bradford. We did a similar kind of letter, but for the feds. So it goes back to Councillor Harvey's point. How effective are those letters? This isn't controversial to me either, but I think we are very politically fortunate, if you care about outcomes, to have the MPPs that we have. We have the Attorney General of Ontario as the MPP of this physical space, and we have the MPP we have the MPP and the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks as the MPP of this side of the table. Having the ability to have that representation is key, because again, I think most of us have their numbers. We can call them, we can text them, and if we don't, like I said before about current Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown, if you don't and you would like that, please let me know, and I'll pass that on, because this isn't about wanting to chat with them and catch up and be social. This is about moving issues that are important to the city. So I think we need to employ that first. Many other ridings don't have the benefit of having that proximity, and I'll put my money where my mouth is. When I've had questions about in my opinion, the excessiveness of gambling ads on TV and social media, I told the Attorney General to him directly. When I had concerns about the Greenbelt, personally, I told the Barrie Innisfil MPP at the time, when I've had questions about e-reform over the court and processes, it was actually more compliments. I told the Attorney General. And it's not just compliments, I also had concerns about the gambling ads. So I've made myself either available getting meetings, texting, calling, or when I run into them at events, if it's an appropriate setting, to bring it up to them. And I think a couple of you have witnessed me do that. So I also think that in terms of the process, having this request go through the Mayor's Task Force to the Reference Committee, or maybe even start at the Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee, can give it more time to kind of develop. So we're at that point talking about maybe not just a letter, but a specific policy recommendation, and gives us an ability to flesh it out instead of coming here and almost being if you like the lake, support the letter, if not, not, which I know nobody's characterized that way, but that's why we have that process in there, so we can get to a more wholesome outcome. So those are my comments.
Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Originally, I was just, as others concerned about the process, and I do think it's been well stated we have a luxury of having the minister as an MPP locally, so really that relationship is really to our advantage. But also, and I appreciated the added context that Councillor Reitman provided, but that made me concerned about the method. And if we're going to get together with others and write letters, I think that's a less effective method if we really want to lead in this, and we think this is something that we want to have an impact on. Wouldn't we want to arrange a meeting at the very least with others? So I'm not, I don't have the background of the other members of council on the conservation authorities, so certainly don't have that level of detail of the phosphorus loads and things that can be done, things that do apply and don't apply. But I really think that we could make a much better effort at the process and selection of a method that we were to move forward with this if we should. So I don't accept the motion as it's been provided. I think it does leave lots of room for improvement with both process and methods, so I would not be voting for it. Thank you.
Councillor Corser?
Yes, I don't see where there's a controversy about sending a letter or adding a voice to an important item that needs to be looked after. And as we're throwing around who's on committees, I actually sit on the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority, and I've learned a lot about things about what's happening to our Great Lakes Simcoe. All I see here is we see that the provincial government has added funding, which is awesome, to help to manage this. But my understanding is we're looking for a plan, and it doesn't seem that that there's not enough action being taken. So I don't see how meetings and phone calls, we're adding our voice to a group of municipalities that are invested in Lake Simcoe. And I don't see how using our voice is such a controversial matter, and I would definitely support this. That's just my comment.
Thank you, Councillor. I see you there, Deputy Mayor, if I may. You want to ask staff a question?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, not all to staff. I guess it would be Miss Oakley today. Thank you for your response to my question and stuff. And look, I just think the lake's a very important thing, but I think we've got to also highlight the great work our staff are doing. So our compliance, which is ECA of our watershed treatment facility and stuff, we are allowed 2,774 kilos of phosphorus a year. Last year, we put in 427. It's 15%. So this letter is asking for a reduction of 50% and stuff, but I just don't want it to be lost in the great work we're doing. And there are other things that contribute. So it's wastewater and storm runoff and stuff, where the Lake Simcoe Conservation has an offset fee if that can't be achieved and stuff. So I just, like I said, I think we've really got to look at our staff, and we've got some really bright people that work for this government that are taking this initiative on themselves without writing letters, without adding voices. We're just doing it because we know the importance of our, Lake Simcoe being our gem. So more of a comment, I guess, but I guess I have to ask a question. I could just say, do you agree? But and that wouldn't be my question. But do you see that the 2023 numbers will fall very similar to the 2022 of being 15% of the allotted amount?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Deputy Mayor Thompson, I have no reason to believe that they'll be significantly different, but as I did note to you, once the city completes their upgrade at the wastewater treatment plant to implement the membrane technology, the amount of loading on the lake will be reduced, again, until such time as growth occurs and we start increasing the amount of wastewater that we treat.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Voice. I actually think that voice is important here. when we first sat down and we had our strategic planning meeting, one of the changes that I made was inviting provincial and federal members to be with us. So we took a little picture as Team Barrie. And I think that, you know, the culture that I've tried to breed for this table, but for our senior staff, although sometimes at the levels of government make it difficult for us, is one that's inclusive, open communication, constant communication, work on the same team, work together. If we're focused on results, let's find a route to the results. And my feeling is that this motion, as written, less so as amended, which I will give credit for, doesn't fall in line with that culture. And there's I mean, it's been mentioned a few times here, like picking up the phone. I sat in my office this afternoon as I was going over this for the 10th time, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to Google how far it is from the City Hall to the Minister's office. It's 5.9 kilometers. I then thought, you know what, I'm going to call the Minister and just like see if I can get her to ask her if there's been a phone call, an email, a text message, and anything to say, hey, this is important to us. Is there something we can work on together to like propel this forward, or be part of the strategy? We're already doing actually a ton that's part of the strategy, and I'll get to that in a second. But Deputy Mayor Thompson's been flagging this all day, and before that, Deputy Mayor, and there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. I don't care the political stripe of the people in Toronto or Ottawa. We are mandated to work with them. They're chosen by the electors. They're elected just the way that we are. Most of those electors are the same electors, and I think that we should be working well together with them. And so when I'm forced to read out a motion, which maybe I shouldn't have, that has misinformation in, it's a little frustrating, and I don't think it's fair. I also spoke to the Minister yesterday and asked for information on background, because I'm not going to take another municipality's word for it. And it took some digging and some back and forth, but the contributions, 1819, 1.683, 1920, 1.457, 2021, 2.545, 2122, 2.602, 2223, 2.097, 2324 projected 2.67, for a total of $13,056,974.79, which is the $24 million that was, I believe. Actually, no, that's future funding. That's the phosphate reduction plant. So that's in addition to the phosphate reduction plant. There are significant dollars being invested. That doesn't mean that we're getting the results that are being asked for in the motion. So, you know, input, output. But there's a second thing that smacked me a little bit in the face here on this one that made it feel political, and that is the absence of our federal counterparts. In 2015, with 4 days left in the election, the governing party committed to Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund extension. In 2019, the government committed to it. In 2000, and I don't know if it was 21 or 22 that the last federal election was, I'm kind of losing track in time, 22. It was also included inside of the commitments. Yet there's nothing here related to that. And the reality is, and the point is actually made by the Deputy Mayor here, if Barrie's at 15% of its level and we're still going outside of the limits, no one level of government can handle this issue on its own. Not the municipality, not the province, not the feds. We need everybody at the table working together, because it's an incredibly important issue. And so the amendment on the floor, which does write or at least removes the funding pieces, I'm supportive of, but I'm still not supportive of the motion as it stands. And I think that one of the things that we could have done, perhaps if we'd gone through the proper process, was also recognizing in a whereas what the city's doing, the money the city's spending. So we're going to go to the province, go to the federal government and ask them to spend $30 million on the federal level, because that's what the commitment in the Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund was. And then maybe it's 25 million or 50 million on the provincial level, for a total of, let's just call it 80 million. And there's this thing called inflation these days called 100 million. We just committed to $250 million to improve the wastewater treatment facility. We spent $200 million 10 years ago to improve the wastewater treatment facility. Like, the scope of work the city of Barrie is doing for Lake Simcoe is beyond anyone else, and I wish it was encompassed in here, because I don't believe that we're preaching and not practicing. I think we're practicing a lot, and I think there's a lot more meetings and phone calls and lobbying that needs to take place of provincial and federal counterparts so that they come and do the same thing that we are, which is enhancing our standards, living by regulation, and making investments where they count. So, you know, I'm a little frustrated that it wasn't put together the right way, and hopefully we get somewhere by it, or maybe we come back another date, but I'll leave it at that. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I have an amendment, but after you saying about not having encompassed what the city has done, I feel bad about it now because I left that part out, actually.
That was your part. You're the one who was thinking that.
I just think this is a compromise in speaking how important Lake Simcoe is and the cleanliness of it to our community. So my amendment is that direct motion concerning cleanup Lake Simcoe, moved by myself and second by Councillor Hamilton, that the direct motion concerning cleanup Simcoe be amended by keeping the first whereas and deleting the remainder of the motion and replacing it with the following. Whereas Whereas the federal government originally committed funding for the Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund, with the first round of funding in 2007 to 2012 and the second round of funding for 2012 to 2017 being canceled. Whereas the federal government in 2022 federal budget committed $19.6 million for the Freshwater Action Fund, including Lake Simcoe, but is yet to provide funding on the parameters for Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund. And whereas the provincial government has spent approximately $13 million on Lake Simcoe environment related activities monitoring water quality, and whereas the provincial government initiated in 2022 $24 million investment over 3 years to build Lake Simcoe phosphorus reduction project to help reduce phosphorus discharge from the Holland Marsh into Lake Simcoe, and now therefore be resolved that a letter of support for phosphorus reduction project be sent to the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks for the Province of Ontario with a request for proposal timeline to implement of the plan. The correspondence be sent to the Minister of Environment for the federal government requesting funding envelope parameters for the Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund. That the mayor and CAO be directed to request a meeting with both the federal and provincial Minister of Environment to discuss phosphorus reduction initiatives.
So there's an amendment to the amendment, which is that the direct motion concerning the cleanups Lake Simcoe be amended by keeping the first whereas and deleting the remainder of the motion and replacing with the following. Whereas the federal government originally committed the funding for a Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund with the first round of 2007 to 12 and the second round of 2012 to 17 being canceled, whereas the federal government 2022 federal budget committed $19.6 million for a freshwater action fund, including Lake Simcoe, but is yet to provide funding parameters for a Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund, whereas the provincial government has spent approximately $13 million on Lake Simcoe environmental-related activities, example, monitoring water quality, whereas the provincial government initiated in 2022 a $24 million investment over 3 years to build Lake Simcoe phosphorus reduction project to help reduce phosphorus discharge from the Hollow Marsh into Lake Simcoe. Now, therefore, be it resolved that a letter of support for the phosphorus reduction project be sent to the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks for the Province of Ontario with a request for a proposed timeline for implementation of the plan. 2, that correspondence be sent to the Minister of the Environment for the federal government requesting a funding envelope and parameters for the Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund. And 3, that the Mayor and CAO be directed to request a meeting with both the federal and provincial Ministers of Environment to discuss phosphorus reduction initiatives. So that amendment to the amendment is on the floor, Deputy Mayor.
I can speak to that. I'll be very brief. I always try to be the nice one, but I will say I absolutely love spam email. It makes me dig in, it makes me research, and it really, I research everything and people around. I work hard, and I try to contact as many people to get to a good resolve and a compromise, but I absolutely love spam email. So keep sending it. I have no issues with it. But I think we've got to be careful, and we were real bad in the last term, and we used to joke that we needed a scoreboard over the mayor's head to see all the letters we wrote to how many responses we received. And to record, and the clerk can correct me, I think we wrote 17 letters, and we received 2 correspondence and 0 actions. So it shows you the effectiveness of writing letters. So I love the initiative. I know everybody around the table loves the lake. It's one of our greatest selling features to invest in our community, but I think we've got to have action. So I think this amendment is a compromise. It shows the importance, but it actually directs some timelines, some action, and some face-to-face sit-down.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Councillor Kungl.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. So my one comment is, having just received that amendment and reading through it, and then what is kept with that, which is the first sentence, the intention of the original motion is really about the 44 tons by 2030. So the one thing that I'm not seeing is reference to the overall goal being by 2030. So whether or not that could be a friendly put in there or an amendment, but I would say, overall, whether or not the minister is 5 kilometers away or it's a phone call, I don't speak for council. I had no concern about the initiatives to date. If you take it at the face value of the intention is the goal is what's a priority. And if council still continues to support the goal of 44 tons by 2030, that's the intention. So then I would just look to other members of council whether or not you're satisfied with this, but to include a formal target of 2030 into the amendment that's on the floor. Councillor Deputy Mayor Robert Thompson, is your intention with this amendment to also stay true to the original goal of 44 tons by 2030?
So through you, Mayor Nuttall, I wanted to say we can't accept friendlies through council. So it would have to be a written amendment to the amendment to the amendment. But that's my fear, I think, by setting targets without all the work prior to that target. So that's some of the concern I have. So I'm satisfied the way it's written. I understand the intentions, but I think that with the meetings that are scheduled with all the ministers, federal and provincial, I think we can come to a reasonable target, whatever, both levels of, all 3 levels of government can work out. And I think that would be a better approach than setting a target. As we've known, a lot of our environmental targets haven't been hit, nowhere close. So I don't like to set up for failure. And there's needs to be more work before we just pick a number. So I'm satisfied with the way the amendment's written, and that's pretty much.
And if I still have the floor then I would say that's unfortunate, because I feel like it wasn't just a number picked, it was one that was set years back, and would still love to see that that's a commitment. Whether or not it's achievable, I think allows us to stay true to, if this is the intention of what we're investing towards, provincially, federally, what our efforts are contributing towards, we're one of many stakeholders. But then change the goal once we have more information about if we're not going to hit it. But I don't think we should just throw it out of the line of sight for all the efforts that we've been tracking and where this has come from around what we've been trying to build towards. And we've taken really great steps, like as a city, which is wonderful. But we're one stakeholder that impacts the health of Lake Simcoe. So while we can talk about what we're doing and share our learnings and support the overall initiative, I hesitate for us to say that the 2030 doesn't have value.
Thank you. Just for Councillor Riba, as just a piece of clarity, I have received in my conversations 0 change on the target. I haven't heard that. That doesn't mean it's not out there, but I have heard 0 movement from the target.
Yes, in fact, Mr. Mayor, I was going to mention something like that to my colleague here, because I appreciate the amendment leaving the first paragraph, because it refers to the fact that the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan includes, in fact, that very target. And so I think that, you know, we're accomplishing what Councillor Kungl is saying in this amendment, and I was the seconder for the original amendment, or the original motion, but I think I'm okay with this revision, because I think it says the same kind of things, so I'm good with it.
I'm going to go back to the same lineup. It's going to go Councillor Morales, then Councillor Harris again.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I'm not comfortable with this. Here's why. If I wasn't comfortable writing a letter 10, 12 minutes ago, I'm not comfortable now, whether we clarified some of the language or not. This is a process, actually, Mayor Nuttall, that you instituted, which is follow the process of the task force, the reference committees, the advisory committees, when appropriate, and then come back. It doesn't just filter it. It does have an effect of filtering, but it has an effect of strengthening and enhancing. So if we're going to get it, I'm thinking beyond just this motion, if we're going to get past the slippery slope portion of, well, this is a really important issue, and how can you, nobody does, but how could one possibly oppose the lake? Then we could use that same logic for a lot of issues. Is there a time for direct motions? Sorry, let me get it right. Is there a time for, yes, direct motions? Yes, there is. Time-sensitive things. We're going for summer recess, and the reconstruction of Dunlop Street is going to cost an extra couple $1 million. That's time-sensitive, and yes, there's a time for that as well. But I don't think for this it's the case. If I'm hearing that the minister has not gotten calls, took your call, but got some information, I think getting a letter that goes into such detail, and again, I also don't have the privilege of being on a conservation authority anymore. I think that's something I would like some time with, and I think every member here. Sorry, I'm just pausing for Deputy Mayor Thompson there for a second. So I think if, like, we're going to write this letter, we're going to want some time to check that information, and for myself to be comfortable in getting behind it. So I think it will be a stronger motion. Also, if members of council, I don't know if they remember, but this would be probably 2-3 months ago, at a community safety meeting, we moved a motion to invite our MP, our politicians of other levels of government to come basically be at the podium and do a presentation / take questions. I know Councilor Rietma had some questions around, was it short-term rentals at the time, and I said that's a great thing to add in order to get them up here in front of us, to give accountability to them and for them to provide answers to us. So I think this is another opportunity. If between this going through our other committees, there's still a level of dissatisfaction about inaction, I think then at that time we can do something a little bit better. But I'm still struggling with this because of those reasons.
Thank you, Councilor Morales. Councilor Harris.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I appreciate the comments from Councilor Morales, but I do recognize the work that Deputy Mayor Thompson put into this amendment, and I definitely appreciate knowing the investment that Councilor Reitman has into this issue, his endorsement of the amendment. My question, Deputy Mayor Thompson, for you is, this is a vast improvement, and I see the items related to process, excuse me, to method and process that I'd mentioned, and certainly one of the methods that I thought was less than effective was the letter. But in this, and in the now therefore it be it resolves portion, the key item for me, and I see it in 3, is the mayor and the COB directed to request a meeting with both the federal and provincial ministers of environment to discuss phosphorus reduction initiatives. So that for me was my preferred method. I'm just wondering, and maybe this goes to some of the comments from just before, is the order of operations in that section 1, 2, and 3, and I do see that the letter is more of it's a support letter for the phosphorus reduction project that's already been identified. So is there something in that process that could be altered, or is it maybe to help kind of that discrepancy of we didn't really like to just send a letter and we know we have a minister right here in our community? Can you explain your thoughts around that process that you've outlined in that section?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Harris. So it really wasn't like a priority list. It was just itemized as 1, 2, and 3. And the letter of support, as I said, I'm not a big fan of writing any letter, but it was more about trying to see if we could get a timeline on implementing the thing as the meeting, Mayor Nuttall and CAO Prowse would have. But just kind of this is where we're at, this is kind of what we're looking for, and to have some actions and some answers to what they've done with the investment. That was kind of, but if you wanted to make 3, 1, and like the other way around of the importance, I'm okay with that. And I don't know if that would have to be an amendment or if nowhere does it state that this is the priority of them. This is just 3 actions on how the actions. So I guess in my comments, we do not send a letter until the meeting occurs. With that.
Members of Council, I'll deliver the letters. I'll take the letters with me. It'll guide us in the conversation.
That's great, and I'm completely comfortable with the explanation, and the hand-delivered letters is next level. So, I just wanted to given the concern about the letters and how I really, item 3 is there, and that's really the key point. And thank you for the effort that went into this, and I appreciate again that those who were in favor of this action have stated their support, and my support is also there. And again, I represent a ward that has a large portion of it on Kempenfeld Bay, and received a lot of interest in any action that ever comes up related to preserving Lake Simcoe. So my inbox was full, and understandably, and recognized a lot of names. So I'm really pleased that we've been able to come to this depth, because we've added the federal government, which I think was obviously a great catch from Mayor Nuttall. So you have my support. Thank you.
Seeing no other, Councillor Corso.
I guess, I don't know, this is through you, Mayor Nuttall, to the clerk's office, or if this question is appropriate at this time. But we have a lot of conversations, but I'm going to ask it. We have a lot of conversations about having different levels of government that we have handily in our own in our area. Has there been a date set for them to come to council? When is that happening?
Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, the invitations have been extended, and they are coming in the early spring of 2024. I think the federal ministers are coming in May, but I think the provincial ministers are coming in April. So we have dates set. I don't have them off the top of my head, but they have been scheduled.
And just a follow-up question, when were those invitations sent out to the different levels of government?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, we received direction a few meetings ago to invite the ministers and the MPs to council. So once we had that direction formalized by City Council, my staff undertook to reach out to their offices to schedule those dates.
Okay, so that was like a year ago-ish?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, no, it was more like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we had a discussion about inviting them when we first came into office to come and ask these questions, so maybe I just have my timeline incorrect. No, thank you.
We did invite them to come and partake, and they did partake. They were with us.
No, I thought that was supposed to be to come to council.
I think they offered, and I think we've taken them up on that offer, and they've taken us up on that offer. So, but it's not for a few months.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Also, I would just really like to say the travel schedule of the provincial and federal members, I am in a unique position to tell you how difficult it is. You're spending over half of the year in another city on Wednesday nights. Then when you're back, it happens to be the same time we're not meeting, right? Because they come back for things like Thanksgiving. Well, we don't have a meeting. Then they come back for the summer. We don't have meetings. So the overlap of the schedules is very difficult, very difficult. Easier for Toronto, really hard for Ottawa. Are there any other questions or comments with regards to this? Councillor Rittman.
I just had one comment, and I agree with Deputy Mayor Thompson. I love getting emails. I got lots of them. But my request is, could you please spell my name right?
I'm in that same boat.
Yeah. Well, I'm guilty of spelling both your names wrong. But as Councillor Harvey would tell you, at least I say it right. Okay, so we are now on the amendment to the main motion. And I'm going to call the vote. So all those in favor of the amendment to the amendment? It carries. We're now on the amendment to the main motion. We're on the amendment as amended to the main motion. Are there any other comments or questions at this point? Seeing none, all those in favor? It carries. We're now on the motion twice amended. Actually, once amended. But anyway, all those in, are there any comments or questions on the main motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And it carries. So good work, everybody. We will now move into, yeah, why don't we, let's do that, because they've been waiting for us now.
Why don't you do announcements?
Yeah, Eric, can we get everyone upstairs? And while we're doing that, we'll jump into inquiries and announcements.
We've done inquiries already. They've lost their opportunity.
Hey, we have as much time for inquiries as we need. Okay, are there any inquiries around the table? Anyone forget them earlier? Okay, no, so there's no inquiries. In terms of announcements, Councillor Negussi.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. As you see on the screen, we have a Christmas party. Mayor Nuttall, Councillor Harvey, and myself are hosting a heartwarming community Christmas party at the Piggy Health Center. We are spreading the festive cheer by offering free pictures with Santa, and everyone is welcome to join in the joy and capture a special moment with Santa Claus. In the spirit of giving back, we are also organizing a canned food drive for our local food bank. Your generosity can make a significant impact, so we kindly ask you to donate what you can to support those in need during this special time of year. And I invite the staff and the council to our Christmas party. Thank you.
Are there any other announcements? I have a few, so I'll get into those. The city's 2024 waste collection calendars are being delivered this week to Barrie household. Copies of the calendars will also be available for pickup by late December at city facilities. In May 2024, residents and businesses can expect changes to the city's curbside waste collection program. These changes include a new waste collection contractor, the transition of the residential recycling program to a producer responsibility model as per the provincial regulations. For a full list of the changes, visit barrie.ca/curbside collection changes. The City of Barrie is now accepting committee applications from Barrie citizens wishing to be considered for appointment to the Business Licensing Appeal Committee, the Heritage Barrie Committee, and the newly established Youth Council. The application deadline is January the 19th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. For further information, please visit barrie.ca/committees task forces. The annual New Year's Eve countdown celebration will be taking place December 31st. The event will feature rock band Big Wreck as the headliner and Sunshine and Broccoli as the children's performers. For more information, visit barrie.ca/downtown countdown. Residents are invited to attend the Mayor's New Year's Levy event on December 31st at the following times and locations: 11 to 1 at East Bayfield Community Center, that's 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., and 2 to 4 p.m. at the Allendale Rec Center, between 2 and 4 p.m. This is on New Year's Eve. Free public skating will be provided at both times and locations. Donations for the Barrie Food Bank are encouraged, and for more information, visit barrie.ca/Mayor's New Year's Levy. On-street parking restrictions are now in place until March 31st from 3 to 6 a.m. with the downtown business improvement area on other city streets from 12:01 to 7 a.m. and in any hybrid parking lots or waterfront parking areas from 12:01 to 5 a.m. For more information, visit barrie.ca/parking. Hold that for later. I'm going to jump back, if that's okay, members of the council, to our presentations. Let's see, I see Mr. President. Always wanted to say that. I feel like I'm back in the West Wing, you know. Welcome to the council chambers. Georgian Grizzlies, welcome to the council chambers as well. And I'm going to ask that John Daggett come up, who would probably like to say a few words before we go into presenting the certificates. And also, I believe that the President will also be joining us for the certificates. Is that correct? If that's okay? Yes, perfect. And before we go, I'll just maybe set the stage, and then I'm going to join you after I get equipped to do so. The recognition tonight is of the Georgian College Grizzlies men's rugby team on winning gold at the 2023 Ontario Colleges Athletic Association OCAA Men's Varsity Rugby Provincial Championship. So I'd like to congratulate the Georgian Grizzlies and hand over the microphone to tell us all about it.
Thank you. Excuse me. On behalf of the team, I want to thank members of council for this wonderful recognition tonight on our championship season. We're truly honored to be here, and this is probably the quietest you will ever hear the rugby team, so maybe we just bring them here whenever we need to study going forward. I do want to recognize our President and CEO, Kevin Weaver, is here tonight. He's a wonderful supporter of sport at Georgian, a huge fan of rugby. He tells me it's his favorite sport at Georgian, at least tonight, so that's great. As well as Dave Liberté, Jeff Harris, and Alana Weber, who continue to be great supporters of ours throughout the season. Just quickly, when we started this season, the coaches knew that we had a very special group of people. And we continued to tell the players that as the season went on. And it wasn't just that we found a combination of veterans and great athletes and skilled players. It was really that we had a great group of humans on our team. We have said since we started the program, we took it over 12 years ago, is if you come through our program and you're only a better rugby player or only a better coach, then we've failed you. We want you to be the best version of yourself and really be a better human. We do that by being honest and building trust, integrity, accountability, and through that, resilience. And we saw that throughout the season. First game of the season, did very well at home Friday night under the lights. I'm sure you were all there. It was a great game. We won. Going into the next game, we play a bitter rival, Durham, who we've been back and forth with for years. Last year, they beat us pretty handily in the final game, so we want a little bit of revenge. We did not get that. They beat us pretty handily again, to be honest. But from that, what we found is a great amount of resilience from this team. We scored late in the game. There was no quit, no give up on this team at all. Players that we did not expect that we would have to put in early in the season really showed up. Players that had never played rugby before came and really, really played. And we started to see that as we went on the season. One thing we talk about is accountability. We played Humber in the final game, but we also played them midway through. And we played them at Humber. It was not our best game. There was a long break in the game. We scored on the last play of the game. And once again, we knew that this team would not quit. Right? And that was wonderful for us to see. It was great to see the resilience. From that, we also had to get some accountability. We've been talking about trust and honesty and integrity all year. And we had some very honest conversations with players after that game about where they were, their level of commitment, how much they really wanted to do this. And it wasn't easy, as you can imagine, but it was something that was needed. And we couldn't just do it then. We had been building that for the whole season. Some veteran players the next game did not start. And they could have just sat back, sulked, pouted, but what they did is they helped the players who were taking their spots become better that week. And we knew we had a team. That was amazing. We go out the next week, we beat Sheridan. We play Sheridan for what we call the Brown Bear Cup. We're the Grizzlies, they're the Bruins. We've won it every year but one. So it stays in our trophy case for another year, which we're very happy about. We beat them 32-12, and really we had this mindset that we are not going to lose. We played St. Lawrence in the semifinals. St. Lawrence beat us in the finals a couple years ago in what we called the Mud Bowl. If it had been anywhere else, we could have played on this floor. It would have been better. And they beat us a very close game, so we're happy when we beat them 57-10. That was a nice little feather in our cap. We figured we would play Durham again. They were undefeated, and they got upset by Humber. So we're playing Humber. They're coming off a big win, big upset. They have faster athletes. They have bigger athletes. But we're playing at home, something we call the Grizzly Den. So we're going to defend the den. And yeah, we knew, even though they had better and faster players, that we were the better team. End of story. And, you know, we were excited for that. We saw the resilience through the year. We had players that got hurt. Other players stepped up. We had a player who never played before, just learned rugby this year, and he started in the final game of the season. So it just talks about, you know, just the way this team was built and the better team of it all. I will quote just quickly Alex Karras when he said, toughness is not in the soul, or toughness is in the soul and spirit, not in the muscles. And that's what we had from this team. I'm 54. There's many times in my life where I would love to go back and remember that moment. I can tell you, I would love to go back after our final game. We beat Humber 26-10 and see the smiles and tears of joy on the players' faces, something I'll never forget. And hope that these players never forget that as well. So thank you again for your time tonight. We really appreciate it, and we're very honored to be here. Thank you. Just before we get to the certificates, Alex, we want to give you Georgian Grizzly rugby ball.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely perks to be in the mayor. There you go. And season tickets for all the Grizzly games that are left this year for volleyball, basketball, and then we'll get you a handful of tickets for rugby comes up again next year.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think I have to share these with members of council. Otherwise, they're going to go to the Integrity Commission.
Okay, absolutely, yeah. Kevin told me to give them to you.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much to, obviously, Georgian College, who supports you players a lot. You can tell by the amount of folks that have come out tonight. When you have your president and CEO come out, I think it obviously says a lot. And we celebrate you as a city. Each and every one of you. It sounds like you've been on not just a rugby journey, but you've been on a personal journey, and that's probably the coolest thing you can witness as a coach or mentor. John, you've obviously put a lot of time and effort in, so thank you. So what I'd like to do, because you'll know names better than I will, and I'll mispronounce half of them, if you can invite everyone down, and then we'll present the certificates. And President Kevin, if you could come down as well, that'd be great.
Jack or her? You want to do that too? Paul Amos Ameo. Paul's a player that never played before, and then he started in the final game this year. Matthew Bembridge. Andrew Brown. Vincent Callaway. Brody Kodar. Rahul Delpachitra. Troy Dice. Parker England. Bredlin Gerard. Jonah Hall. Seamus Hodson. Ryan Irvine. Donovan Jacko. Andrew Kenny. Riley Kirk. Duncan Montague. Rylan Moulton. Tad Wendesi.
Congratulations, Tad.
Ethan Murray.
Congratulations.
Trevor Nesrevic. Nick O'Brien. Ethan Phillips.
Congratulations, Ethan.
Wayne Poisson. James Rob Kennedy. Aiden Scott. Marcus Shuffler. Matthew Turco. Will Whaley. And for our coaches, Josh Morgan. Mike Alkenbrack. And Mike Sabre. Again, thank you very much for this. It's wonderful. Most of our players are local players going through the high school system here. Mike Alkenbrack's a teacher at Barrie North, and he's been a great supporter of ours, just a great human being, as are other coaches. So once again, thank you, and we're so proud of these guys. It's great.
And sorry, last but not least, our head coach for 12 seasons, John Daggett, who's done a tremendous. I really want to thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you for taking the time. I know you've had a long evening, but to take the time to recognize student athletes is absolutely exceptional. I'm proud of every single one of them. They work hard as students. They work hard as athletes, and you know they show off really well for Georgian and the city when they play as well as they did, and you know, really proud of the collective effort. So thank you for this recognition of them. To the students and coaches, well done. We're completely proud of you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. President, it's a good thing that you and I aren't the example of a good athletic body in this room anymore. And I was speaking purely for myself. Members of council, we finished the agenda for the evening. If it's okay, I'm going to finish from here just because of the ease of it. And just wanted everyone at home, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We hope you have a safe one with your friends and family. And unfortunately, you'll miss us for the next couple of weeks. So Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday with your families. Oh, we have to do bylaws still.
Stay there.
Okay, I'm
Stay there.
I might get used to this, you know. It's Deputy
We
Mayor
won't.
Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Congo, leave be granted to introduce the following bills, and these bills be read a first, second, and third time on this day and finally passed. Bill 182 and 183.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungle, that leave be granted to introduce the following bills, and these bills be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bills 182 and 183. Are there any comments or questions from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? It carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungle, leave be granted to introduce the following bill. This bill be read a first, second, and third time on this day and finally passed. Bill 184, the confirmation bylaw.
It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungle, that leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bill 184. Any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? It carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Rietma and Councillor Corser. I won't ask for comments on the motion to adjourn. All those in favor? It carries at 8:39 p.m. Mayor